Hello guys, welcome to Anita Crochet. My name is Anita. Once again, I'm going to be sharing with you how to make this very simple thigh-high stockings. And as I promised, I said I'm going to be making things that I didn't think about making, okay? And I've been going through all the things that I haven't made, and I thought, oh yes, stockings. Yes, and I can see we are headed for winter, not my country because literally it is summer every day, but then some of you are headed for winter, so I thought this is the gift I can give most of you, so you can just make this for yourselves and just warm yourselves up. How cool is that? So first of all, these stockings are super beginner friendly. It's just a matter of keeping up with your stitches. That's the only hard thing about it, but the rest of it is super beginner friendly. Yes. To get started, this is what you'll need to get your stockings ready. You will need a tape measure, okay, and a hook. Okay, this is a 3.5 millimeter hook. It's an e-hook. A darning needle to weave in your ends, or even just a needle, that will also be great. It can work for us. And a pair of scissors. Then lastly, an elastic band. If you have elastic strands and you can use two of them, that's also very okay. But then I ran out of those, and this is the only small size I could access, so I thought I could just use this. But if you have the other small ones, very small, like they look like elastic strands, okay, you can just use those, but make sure you are doubling them because this is a little stronger. That's why it's also the best option, even if I wanted to use the others initially. So let's get started. Also, I forgot to say I am working with Robin Chunky. It is 100% acrylic, 100 grams, and it is size 4 yarn. Okay, so here it is. First of all, I'm going to make a magic circle. I don't know how you make yours. This is how I make mine. And I'll get my hook, yarn over, insert it into the magic circle and work a single crochet. So I am going to work a total of 6 single crochets, okay? And once I have that, I am going to pull this end. Do not work a slip stitch. So here we go. This is our very first stitch. Now into the very first stitch, we are going to work 2 single crochets, just like that. Now just go back to the very first one, and you're going to get your stitch marker. I'll make mine orange so it is visible for me to see that I have reached my first stitch right there. So into the next stitch, we are going to work 2 single crochets still. Literally, we are going to work 2 single crochets into every stitch all the way around. So we get back to, this should be the very last one, okay? And we work single crochets, 2 of them. We take out our stitch marker, and then into that very first stitch we work 2 single crochets. So go back to your very first stitch and put your stitch marker. Into the next stitch we are going to work 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. One single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets into the next, and this is what we are going to follow all the way around until we come to the end of the row. Yes, so here I am, and I've gotten to my very first stitch, so I take out my stitch marker and work 2 single crochets into the very first stitch. Okay, get my stitch marker and put it back into the first stitch, and now work 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Again, 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So this is what we are going to follow until we come to the end of our row. So once here at the end of your row, you'll take out your stitch marker again and work 2 single crochets into that stitch. Get back and mark the first stitch that you have worked, because that's our first stitch. Now work 3 single crochets into the next 3 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Again, 3 single crochets into the next 3 stitches, then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So you are going to repeat that until you come to the end of your row. Once at the end, you take out your stitch marker, and into that very first stitch you work 2 single crochets. Get back and mark your first stitch. Now work 4 single crochets into the next 4 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. 4 single crochets into the next 4 stitches, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So do this until you come to the end of your row. Okay, so you take out your stitch marker, work 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches, 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Get your stitch marker and put it back into the very first stitch. Now we are going to work 5 single crochets into the next 5 stitches. And now work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Work 5 single crochets into the next 5 stitches. And 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So you are going to do that until you come to the end of your row. So at this point you are going to stop increasing, but if you have a bigger leg, okay, bigger feet, yes, you can just continue if you're working with this hook. But if you're working with a bigger hook, you can just stop here, because at the end of the day, the bigger the hook, the more stretchy your work is going to be. So if you want your stockings to still fit even when they are a little stretched out, this is why you need to stop. But if you feel like this is not enough for you, you can just add just a few rows, 1 or 2. It may look small, but as far as we are going to go, it's actually going to widen and look bigger than this. Now, since I am trying to make a color palette, I'll cut my yarn and just attach another color of yarn that I want. So my next stitch is where the stitch marker is. I'll take that out and insert my hook into that stitch. Pull through my yarn and work a single crochet. And into the next stitch, I'll work 1 single crochet. So I'll just get my stitch marker and place it exactly back into the first stitch so I don't lose count. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So I have gotten back to my very first stitch. And right here, I'll take out my stitch marker. Like I said, I have 35 stitches, so you should have those as well. And into this very first stitch, I'll work my single crochet and work 1 single crochet into the next. So let me just get back here and place my stitch marker back into the very first stitch. Yes, so I'm going to continue working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around for a total of 30 rows. So you are going to repeat this for a total of 30 rows. So I'm just going to get back once you have your 30 rows complete and then show you what to do next. So I have finished working my 30 rows. That's from here all the way up. Okay, these are 30 rows. So this is my very first stitch. Here you work into the very first stitch, you work 1 single crochet and work 1 single crochet into the next. I'm just going to get back and mark my stitch. So I'm going to work a total of 7 single crochets. I have 2 already, so I have 5 to go. So into the next stitches I worked 6, not 7. Okay, so I worked 6 single crochets into the next into the first 6 stitches from here, and then I worked 2 single crochets into this stitch, that's the next, and then 1 single crochet into the next, then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Now from here we are going to work 16 stitches, 1 single crochet into every stitch for the next 16 stitches. Okay, so once we have our 16 stitches, we are going to work 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets into the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next stitches until the end of the row. 5 and 6. Okay, so that gives us 6 stitches to start with and 6 stitches to end with. Now I'll take out my stitch marker and then work 1 single crochet into that stitch, 1 single crochet in the next, just to put back my stitch marker. That's what I'll do. And then I'll work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around until I come to the end of my row. So you can see that we are starting to get an increase for our piece. Okay, now here I'll take out my stitch marker and I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the next 7 stitch, sorry, the next 7 stitches. Okay, so I've worked only 2, that makes it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now here I'll just do the same. Into the next stitch I'm going to work 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet in the next, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And here I'm going to work into the next 18 stitches. I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the next 18 stitches. Once we have 18 stitches, we are going to work 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then I'll work 7 single crochets into the last 7 stitches. So you can see that there is that kind of increase. Okay, now at this point I am going to take out my acting stitch marker and work 1 single crochet into this and 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around until I get to the end of my row. So I'll take out my stitch marker and work my first single crochet into the very first stitch, work a single crochet in the next. I'm just going to get back and mark my first stitch so I don't lose count. into the next 6 stitches I'm going to work 1 single crochet. So that means we have to have 8 stitches of 1 single crochet. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And now into the next stitch here I am going to work 2 single crochets in the very same stitch, 1 single crochet in the next, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Now I will work 20 stitches, and now into the next stitch I'm going to work 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets into the next, and then I'll work 1 single crochet into every stitch until I come to the end of my row. 7 8. So you find that I have the very same number of stitches as I had when I started the row. Okay, yes, so this brings us to this kind of width. You can see that we are having some sort of width. Now from here I'm going to take out my stitch marker and work 1 single crochet into that stitch, then 1 single crochet in the next, get back and place my stitch marker into the very first stitch, and then I will work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So take out your stitch marker, and now for the next round still I'm going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch. So just mark your first stitch, and once again go around all the way around, working 1 single crochet without any increase or decrease. So now we are going to now make room for our heel. So I'll take out my acting stitch marker, and into this very first stitch I am going to work 1 single crochet. So will I in the next. I'll just get back and place my stitch marker into that stitch, and now we are going to work into 1 single crochet into the next 8 stitches. So that makes it a total of 10 stitches. Now from here I am going to chain. Okay, looking at what I have to have, you have done the right stitches, but well, I have to be changing a color, which I did not, so I'm just going to take this back and change my color. Okay, now here we are going to chain 14. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. So we have 14 of them, and now we are going to skip 26 stitches. We are going to skip 26 stitches. Now into the 27th right there I'm going to work my 1 single crochet, and just work 1 single crochet all the way to the end. Now this is what you have. Clearly this is where our heel has to go. Okay, and now we are just going to go up, creating the body of our sock. So I'll take out my stitch marker, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So just do this, working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around for the next 8 rows. Okay, and that's where I'm going to meet you and then show you how to work the body of your sock. So I have finished to work the 8 rows, and this is how my work looks like. So once you have come to the end of your row, you will take out your stitch marker and work a slip stitch into that first stitch. Okay, just like that. Now here I'm going to chain 2 and work 1 double crochet into that very same stitch, and I'm going to continue working 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around. So here I am going to chain 2. Okay, and into this very first stitch I'll work a double crochet, Now into the next stitch here, I'm going to work a front post double crochet. So after your front post, you are going to work 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches, and then a front post double crochet in the next, 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches, and a front post double crochet in the next. Okay, so literally this is what you are going to work all the way around, following that very same pattern until you come here at the end, then work a slip stitch into the first 2 chains that you worked. So let me meet you there. So now I have chain 2, and remember I'm not turning my work, so don't do that. Here you will work 1 double crochet into the very first stitch, and where there is a front post double crochet, you will do the same, work a front post double crochet, and then into the next 2 stitches you work 1 double crochet into each of them, and then work a front post double crochet. Literally what we did on the previous row is exactly what we are going to do for this row. Okay, so just do this until you come to the end of the row and work a slip stitch. Okay, so let me meet you there. So yes, as you can see, I have chained 2, and now I am going to work 1 double crochet into this very first stitch. So first of all, I'm going to start increasing. Okay, so you need to know how many stitches you have on your row, so just count those and divide the total number of stitches you have by 2, so that you can mark where you have to place your middle stitch for the increase. Okay, so for me I have 32, and I have to work, yes, I have to work into the 8th stitch from here, because I'm considering this is the middle at the front. So my middle should be here, because this is how my socks is actually going to be worn. Okay, this is where the heel has to go, and this is where my sock. So when you're counting, okay, you'll get the middle by dividing what you got by 2, and those are the number of stitches that should be at the back. So to get the figure from here, you have to divide that number still by 2. Okay, so for me it is 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16, so I have to have 16 stitches here. But then to find how many stitches I should have from here up to here, I have to divide 16 by 2 again, so that gives me a total of 8. So I'm going to work 8 stitches before I can work an increase. So once I have 8, into the next stitch I am going to work 2 double crochets, and then continue counting, and finally into the 16th stitch right there I'm going to work 2 double crochets, and then work follow the very same pattern that I have been working until the end of the row, and work a slip stitch. So for this row still we are going to work an increase, because clearly we have to work 2 rows, or two rows of an increase followed by 2 normal rows. Okay, so that's the very same pattern we are going to be following, working 2 rows of an increase and 2 normal rows until we get the length of the sock that we want. Okay, because it has to be thigh high, so we are going to be working a number of rows. As you can see, I've worked my double crochets as I have to work them, and also my front post double crochets as I have to work them. So when I get to these 2 double crochets that we worked for an increase, I'm going to work 1 double crochet in there, and now into these 2, in between them, I will work 2 double crochets again. So that means I have worked another increase, and this is the second row for the increase. So you're going to go all the way around following the same pattern. Once you get here in these 2 double crochets right here, as we have done on the other side, you will work 2 double crochets and finish off your row. So after this, you are going to work 2 normal rows of just double crochets and front post double crochets where you have to put front post double crochets. So I have worked 2 normal rows just like I told you guys, and this is how it looks like. So for this row we are going to work an increase. Like I said, we work 2 rows of an increase and 2 normal rows. So here I am going to work 1 double crochet into the first stitch and follow it by a front post just like I have to. So literally just work your double crochets where they are double crochets and front post double crochets where you see a front post double crochet. Now once here, this is where we made an increase. As you can see, we have 4 of them in between every front post. So here I am going to work 1 double crochet in there, and into the next I'll work a double crochet. As you can see, this is where I made my last increase. So if you see the stitch that I have to work an increase next, oh yes, it should be this. This is where I have to work an increase next. So here I'm going to work 2 double crochets into that very same stitch and then work a double crochet in the next, then work a front post into the next stitch. So I'm going to continue working my double crochets where they are double crochets and front post double crochets where they are front posts until I get to the other side where I also worked an increase, and I'm going to do exactly this right here. Okay, work your 2 double crochets and then into this stitch you work 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, then a front post. So just do that until you come to the end of the row, and I'm going to meet you on the next row. I have finished working my row and I'll work 2 chains, then work a double crochet into the very first stitch, work a front post in the next, continue working your double crochets where you see a double crochet and a front post where you see a front post double crochet. So something different here that we are going to do, and this is it. Once you get here, you'll work your double crochet into the very first stitch and into the second. So remember, we have been having 2 double crochets in between every front post. So here we have already our 2 double crochets. So this next stitch here, we are going to work a front post. Okay, and into that very same stitch right there, we work 1 double crochet. Okay, and then we work at a front post double crochets. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 double crochets, and then we are going to work a front post into the next stitch. So I hope you guys have really understood this. Okay, we have literally introduced another front post in between these. I don't know whether that's visible, but I believe you guys can understand it. So you're going to go on and on with the whole entire pattern the way it flows all the way around, and once you get here you will just do the same, exactly what we have done here. After this row you are going to work 2 normal rows without any increase or decrease, just working where you see a front post and where you see normal double crochets. Okay, and after those 2 rows you are just going to repeat the very same thing, because this is where I'm going to leave you. You are just going to repeat the very same thing like we have been doing. As you can see here, working those increases the way you have to work them. So you will just rewind and see where we are. Once you get to increasing, of course you will get in here in this stitch and work 2 double crochets. Okay, one will be a normal double crochet and the other will be a front post. Okay, but all in this very same stitch. And then you'll continue with your normal double crochets and then you get to this front post. So you will have made an increase, and for the next row still you make an increase into that the very same gap. Like you will have a double crochet here and a front post, so in between those two stitches you still will work 2 double crochets, okay, in between the 2 stitches. So you will just continue working as we have been doing until you have the length or the number of rows that you know can go all the way high up your thigh. Yeah, let me just show you this. You see, this is where we are. So you can see I worked 2 normal rows, and once I got to this increase here, that's what I did. Like I told you, working 1 double crochet in there and then the front post double crochet as it has to be worked. And for the next row still I did the same. I worked in between that. You can see that I have this that came off this increase, but then now I have this right here, then 2 of these in between, okay? So you will see it increasing and increasing, just like you see here and here and here. So it just continues increasing, okay? This is the branch off, this is the branch off, and then this is another branch off, and still, okay? So it just goes increasing and increasing, because that's where I'm going to meet you and show you what to do. So I've come to the end of my increasing, and the length of my, this is the length of my stockings. And just to be clear, I stopped increasing. If we count from here, from the first row that we worked double crochets, if we count, I stopped increasing at the 20th row, okay? Yes, that's where I stopped increasing, and that's here, okay? And then from here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, for the next 8 rows I work no increase. So once you have increased let's say 10 times, because 2 rows of an increase and 2 normal rows, that means there are 10 rows of an increase and 10 normal rows in between each 2 rows of an increase. All right, so that means if you get there and you now feel like the width that you have for your sock is fit for your thigh, that's when you should stop increasing and just work normal rows all the way up until you get the length of the stockings that you want. I hope I've been clear. So once you have the length that you want, you will work just 1 row of single crochet. That's 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then from this point, this is what you are going to do. You're going to grab your elastic strand or band or anything that you are using just to get that like stretch or that fit, and you are going to just put it beneath, underneath, okay, yes, underneath. So once you are working your single crochets, you make sure that this is actually being crocheted underneath every stitch, just like that. So we are just going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around, making sure that every stitch has been worked with an elastic band underneath it, okay? So just do this until you come to the end of your row, and then I'll show you what to do next. So once you have worked all your stitches, you will work a slip stitch just like you have to, just like that. And now you'll get at the back of it, and now just pull your elastic strands to that sort of fit that you feel is just enough, not too tight, not too loose, and then you'll make a knot. So you'll just come back and weave these ends within, okay? So let's just get back to the finish. Here you are going to chain 2. Into that very first stitch, you'll work 2 double crochets, and then we are going to skip 2. You'll need to just get this apart so you can count your stitches right. 1 2. Into the second stitch, we work a single crochet, we skip 2 once again, 1 2, and into the third we are going to work 3 double crochets, chain 1, then 3 double crochets again, all in the very same stitch, okay? And we shall skip 2 1 2, and into the third we work a single crochet, Once again, skip 2 and into the third we work 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets, all in the very same stitch, just like that. You are going to do this until you come to the end of your row, and there you will work a slip stitch into the very first stitch that you worked when you were starting your row, into the chain 2 that started the row. Okay, then I'm going to meet you and show you how to work our heel and close it up. Then we shall have come to the end of our sock. So for the heel, this is what you are going to do. You are going to count 5 stitches from where we started from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, right there we are going to work a single crochet. You chain 1 and work a single crochet, and continue working 1 single crochet into the next 18 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So go around until you have a total of 19 stitches. Then I'm going to meet you there. So here we shall work 2 single crochets together, and into the next 3 stitches we work 3 single crochets together. That's into the very first chain stitch. Okay, and into the next, then in the next as well. Into the next 2 we work 2 single crochets together still, and then we are going to work 7 single crochets into the next 7 stitches. So those are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now here we work 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Okay, and then 3 single crochets into the next 3 stitches, just like that. Lastly, 2 single crochets into the last 2 stitches, just like that. So yeah, we are not working a slip stitch still, so into this stitch we are going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch until we come to the end of the row. So I'll just mark my stitch just like that. So work 1 single crochet at this point until you come to the end of your row. I'm going to take out my stitch marker at this point, and now for the next row, into this very first stitch I am going to work 1 single crochet and then 1 single crochet in the next. So I'll just get back and mark my first stitch just like that, and here I'm going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 14 stitches. So we have so far worked 2, I guess. Yes, 2. So far we have worked now 3, so we have 11 to go. Okay, here we are. Now at this point I am going to work 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, okay, and then 3 single crochets into the next 3 stitches. 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Okay, 4 single crochets into the next 4 stitches. So here I'm going to work 2 single crochets together into the next 2 stitches, and then 3 single crochets together into the next 3 stitches. Once again, 2 single crochets together into the next 2 stitches. Now after that, I'm going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch for the next 4 stitches, just like that. And then at this point I am going to work 2 single crochets together into the next 2 stitches, then 3 single crochets together into the next 3 stitches, and lastly 2 single crochets together into the last 2 stitches, just like that. Okay, so I'll take out my stitch marker, and into that very first stitch I'm going to work 1 single crochet and continue working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So I'll just place my stitch marker back so I can notice where I started from. For this row you work 1 single crochet all the way around, and I'm going to meet you once you have come to the end of your row. So clearly this is where we are, okay, and I'm going to take out my stitch marker just like that. I am going to work 2 single crochets together into the first 2 stitches, just like that, then 1 single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets into the next 2 single crochets together into the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet in the next, and this is what I'm going to repeat until I come to the end of my row. This is where we are, and as you can see I have come to my very first stitch, which was here. Okay, so for the next stitch, for the next row, I am going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch. Let me just mark that because this time it won't be visible for me to see where I started from. So for this row, just work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around until you come to the end of your row. For this, this should be our last row. This is what we shall do. We shall take out our stitch marker and then work 2 single crochets together into every stitch all the way around. Okay, we just keep working 2 single crochets together all the way around until we come to the very last row, sorry, the very last stitch. So yes, once here, this is what we shall do. You'll get your scissors and just cut a length, and then I'll pull this and secure it. Then I will get my darning needle or any needle that you have chosen to use without struggle. So I will just get over to this hole and start inserting my needle into every stitch all the way around and pulling, because literally the essence of this is to close up this gap, because we just need something closed. Okay, so you pass through once again every stitch just like that. Okay, so from here you'll just start weaving your end within so that no one can tell where you stopped. And also weave this within. Okay, so this is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please make it an effort to go and join my Facebook group. It's called Nita Crochet's Community, and always share your recreations from my tutorials. That will be super great, and it actually motivates me the more to come here and share more and more of my creativity. Okay, Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.